Thursday night in the what's happening, everybody? Oh, it's I am the god of the internet. As is Monty. Monty, how you doing? Mike, not happy right now.
Doing good, man. Your dial-up's hitting you a little bit now, but you're getting better.
The longer we go on, the better it gets. So
That always seems.
we're just gonna kind of breeze past all of this.
The issue is you're great with the intros, but your internet doesn't like you doing the intros, so we always deal with that.
I don't know what it is. Maybe probably what it is. So here we are on another Thursday. 1 week away from the NFL draft, and I am super excited because, frankly, I am so tired of mock drafts. It's ridiculous.
Dude, this is my Christmas coming up. 1 week away. I am so fucking hyped. I can't wait.
I don't, how do you sleep? Like, I don't understand how you sleep this close to the draft. You're like counting down the days. I actually have it written on my whiteboard about the draft. So I'm excited, but I'm excited to just get it over with at this point. I kind of like.
I'm gonna be sad when it's gone.
We're bordering on ridiculous, is what it. No, you're not, because what happens after the draft? We get to really deep dive into everybody we pick.
That's true.
Even the guys in the later rounds who we don't really know.
You're right. I'm gonna be sad like a month after the draft.
Yeah, I mean, leading into training, like there'll be a little bit of a lull, because we'll pick up a bunch of undrafted free agents, and we'll see how that goes. So then we can kind of dive into all of those, and then there's like that little lull right before training camp starts.
Yep. But then football's back.
We'll figure something else out. Yeah, and then football's back. And then we'll actually have things to talk about instead of having to invent shit like we're doing tonight. So, first off, we're going to start off with do we really, is it really news? Joe Schoen had his pre-draft press conference, and per, what I said last week, he didn't say anything, and we knew he wasn't going to say anything. We did get a couple of little morsels out of Joe, though, things that were great. Number one, we're probably trading up into the top 10 to draft Bijan Robinson, is what I heard.
Yeah, that's exactly what I picked up, too.
I mean, come on. He said, he's open to moving up or down. There's value in every position in the draft, and what he said, and he's not above, moving up or down to take a player that he likes. So that would be
and he didn't commit to Saquon.
15. Let's say we're not going crazy. Maybe not 10. We're at least leapfrog the Cowboys and pick him up. So, I mean, that's what I heard. I don't know about you, Monty, but that's what I heard.
Man, all I heard for sure, the one thing that was loud and clear to everybody who listened to that is that dude had not anything to say about Saquon's future with this team. He wanted no part of talking about Saquon. I lose you, Sarge.
He's
there you
go. I said he's a guy not going to talk about contract openly about his done. And it's fairly obvious that the Dexter Lawrence contracts are moving forward. Those talks are kind of. He seemed real happy about that. They brought up Dex. He's like, I've been in touch with his people, and we talked, and things are good, and then they're like, what about? And he's like, nothing new since we talked at the owners' meeting about Saquon. And 3 or
Yeah,
4 people asked about it, and
the contrast was interesting to me. Where it was with Dexter Lawrence, it's like, yeah, we're working on it. I talked to him. I talked to his representatives this week. We're working on it. And Saquon, it was just like, I don't know. Why don't you go ask him what he's going to do? Because I haven't talked to him.
Well, I don't think it's that. I think that he sent a message very loud and clear that he is not happy, not with Saquon, but with Saquon's representation. That's where the is, and people are going to try to bait into saying something, and he's not going to do it. He's a smart enough guy. He's not going to fall for, I have to credit where credit is due. Pat Leonard asked a really good question, and his next opportunity to ask a question, he made a total and complete ass of himself. So he's back on brand. He had a good question, and then asinine question, and then in between that was Jordan Rannan. So, I mean,
which question did he ask?
Aside from, I swear to man, I don't remember. I think it was like he asked a good draft question, is what he did, and I can't even remember for the life of me because honestly, I watched the press conference in the car. So it's hard when you're watching it on YouTube on your phone, even though it's playing through the stereo, to hear the questions that are coming out of the beat, and unless they're actually talking into a microphone. Like I always know when Chris from Giant Insider is asking a question.
Yeah.
Patricia Traynor, Dan Duggan, Art Stapleton. But like out of those, like those are the 4, and then everybody else on the beat is kind of like it's Pat, it's Pat, it's George, it's kind of whatever guys go. We need better. We need better people.
We need Garofalo back.
I mean, what did you? I mean, honestly, yeah. Let's go.
But yeah, no, my takeaways. I don't know. There's some interesting notes that I've got from it. The one you kind of alluded to is he's open to trading up. And also that was one of the Pat Laird question. Now I remember he asked about trading and trading potentially for. No, that was Dunleavy. Never mind, I mistake. Asked trading up or trading potentially for a vet. And he said he was open to that, open to trading for a vet. So that one was interesting. He specifically said like they emphasized trading down last year because they had so many holes on the team and they didn't have enough money that they just needed depth. And he said more along this year that, they have all those picks. They can trade up if they need to. They're not afraid to go into future drafts. So I don't know. I actually expect to trade up this year. I don't think it will be like a first round because I don't think they're going to be looking to move a second or a third rounder. But when you get into like the second, third, and we can dip into like we have 2 5s and things like that, I actually think we will trade up at some point. So, it's interesting hearing that a little bit. What else?
Don't we have like 4 7th-round picks?
Yeah, sounds right. I think so. You're there at 3.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them buying like a 7 and a 5 to move back up into the 3rd or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I agree. I think I could see something like that. Noah's another one I thought was interesting. We all kind of knew this, but it was just interesting to hear it out of his mouth. Was obviously we're all dissecting these top 30 visits and like who's coming and like does this mean we're gonna take them? And he was kind of like, hey, like we're using our top 30 visits to like when we have questions to answer about a guy, like can he fit in our scheme? Do we have questions about like his character or whatever he said, things along those lines. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know if he's trying to throw off his trail as much, or if I mean, it's true. That is what people also use it for. So it's interesting ones are that.
I mean, it makes a lot of really gives you a good chance. Yeah, to because you're about to a draft pick. You're basically you're at bat at one of these guys, and the more the better chances you have to hit on a guy. But you want to make sure that you're taking big swings every time you get up to the plate. And I don't know analogies I could use here, but but that's essentially the story. Make sure that these are we're good fit as a these are really important, and if they're using these 30, uh, to God, I'm trying to get a word he used. Eliminate. If they're using these, like some of these top 30 guys, like eliminate a guy, or drop him down further up board, that's important too, because also want to make sure that we're getting value for these guys. Getting at the best value, that we're not, overdrafting or underdrafting.
Definitely. Yeah, so that should be interesting. So obviously they're considering these guys. That's why they're bringing them in. But it's like, hey, are we ready to write this guy off? Like, are we sure? Like, let's bring him in to make sure that that we're right in that decision and things like that. So it'll be interesting what came out of that with some of these guys, and who they might have wrote off and who might still be on it. It seems like a lot of the guys we want, or at least are rumored us, are all kind of like on that 30 list. So we'll see that. Hopefully that gives them some clarity with this pick. See, on a kind of like a related note, I thought it was interesting that they were talking about how they've changed since Wink Martindale came here, and kind of how Joe Schoen had to change how he scouts now. And I guess he said basically it was mostly because when he was in Buffalo, they ran a 4-3, and now they run a 3-4. So that's the main thing, is with the front seven. It's a totally different way to look at these guys. But I mean, again, nothing new, nothing groundbreaking, but it is interesting to hear him kind of acknowledge the what changed from, like, in the way he has to approach and where he sees it specifically. And he says the front seven is really where he looks at it.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not anything he hasn't said before. He said on occasions that, last offseason was, you kind of drinking from a fire hose, is how he put it in one of his press conferences, because he had to interview head coaches, and then he had to get an assistant GM, and, he had to fill out a department with who he wanted. Dable came in, and he's trying to hire a coach, and interview, and everything. And now they're just they're settled. They're settled where they're at right now. There was, some positional changes and things like that, but and now he's got a year under his belt of looking at the type of guy that Wink won. How worked in Buffalo. The kind of scheme he wants to run, and the Calf gets comfortable with. So he knows already the kind of guys he needs on that side. But having not worked with Wink before, but now he's in that different comfort level, and he knows now the kind of guy that Wink wants. And and somebody brought up a good point in that same, as the second half of that same question is, do you run the risk of, focusing too much on the drafting for the coach as opposed to drafting for scheme? Because what happens when, Wink gets a head coaching job at the end of next year, and you gotta think it's like, okay, so they're looking for guys who can do multiple things. Versatility is what they really want, and that's the kind of guys that they draft. So we're looking for guys who are good football players, who have that good football acumen, who can be versatile and do different things when, let's say Wink leaves at the end of next year and we bring in another DC, or we hire, the assistant gets moved up. I can't remember his name. The guy Wink from. But anyway,
Mhm.
it's and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was interesting too, the comment as far as, asking. And it's something he brought up when he first came here was essentially, hey, you can't just draft for one coach because you got to be versatile. If that guy leaves, move on. And he mentioned front seven, but I'm interested with a lot of these guys. We're looking at a lot of press man corners about being able to look at guys who are more than press man. But yeah, it looks like we do have something here you posted from Darius. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought this has been brought up, and I think that's interesting because it was something a lot of us have looked at because it was something we looked at last year with the top 30s. What's your opinion on that, Sarge?
So yeah, I mean, I, I don't the I'll make a couple of the guys who came in for the top 30. I mean, it's just the way it is. We're The purpose of the top 30 is not just like we're really putting out there the guys we really like. They're also putting out there guys that they're kind of on the fence about and they really want a better look at. Um, I mean, as far as I think I heard something today somewhere, Bryce Young went and visited Carolina and then canceled the rest of his visits. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
does that tell you?
They're picking him.
Like, he's number one and they're picking him, and he's like, I don't need to meet with anybody else. Well, you know what? If they turn around and draft C.J. Stroud, which him Manning Passing Academy coming out, I guess he no-showed or something like that. I didn't read too much anyway because I'm not drafting a quarterback, so I really don't care what these top quarterbacks are doing. I don't care, you know. Um, but I think it's very interesting. Like Jalen Carter wasn't taking any visits because he thinks he's going top 10, even with all of the legal stuff that's going on. Who knows? So, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw at least a couple of them on our
Yeah.
top 30 this draft. Wouldn't be
So
surprised at all.
there's a couple of things I want to say about it. Is one, just to like play devil's advocate a little bit about how this year could be different than last year. Is keep in mind last year we like didn't have any of our coaches going to like the Senior Bowl, for example. Like Dable was filling out his staff, and he didn't have his staff to go there. So that was less time they got to look at these guys. Shane didn't have like Dennis Hickey wasn't here yet. They were really filling out this team still. So they had less opportunities to really get in front of these players and really have a full season to kind of like they went out and scouted the hell out of them this year. So I think there could be a chance where this year could be totally different than last year in a lot of ways because they had less time to
Mm-hmm.
really look at these
Oh yeah,
guys and it was a different scouting experience. So they might have relied more on these 30 visits. Not saying that we won't, like we might pick just as many if not more, who knows. But and then the other thing I want to point out with it is, some of these guys, they just teams just feel good about them and don't even bring them in for a 30 visit. I mean, Josh Downs is a guy like that. Josh Downs is a really clean player. He didn't get a single top 30 visit. Kalijah Cansey, really good player, didn't get a single top 30 visit. So like sometimes when you got clean character, they you don't necessarily get brought in for these. So it's interesting how all these go.
Right, right. You know, I totally agree. I totally agree. Anything else at the press conference that you thought was worth talking about as far as what he said, what he didn't say, um, what people. And I honestly, I've been busy, super busy today. I didn't
Yeah.
really get a chance to jump on Twitter and take a look and see what people were saying. Is there anything super crazy coming out? I didn't like the people I follow. Honestly, the people I have alerts set for, you being one of them, you didn't have a ton of stuff come out this morning.
Hmm.
I didn't think. Um, I didn't see a
Yeah.
whole
It
lot of
really was
like
nothing.
craziness on Twitter.
Yeah, it was nothing crazy. I do have one more thing I wanted to just mention. And it was actually research Rick brought it up to me to reply to one of my tweets about it. And it was essentially I posted something earlier today, and I can well I touched on this a little bit while I'm talking about it. There was a Daniel Jeremiah Peter Schrager podcast, and essentially Peter Schrager had Zay Flowers in his mock draft, and he basically, when he did that, he said he heard from people around the league were like, hey, like I think he got that switch mixed up. I think Quentin Johnson would be the guy there based on the size of the guy in the roster. We'll see about that. But one thing research Rick pointed out to me, because I mentioned like, hey, I know he said this, but I think that's a lot of like league eyes who aren't necessarily looking through this through a Giants lens. People looking through his Giants lens know the type of players Shane looks at. And he mentioned, and it was the last or like second to last question at the press conference. Somebody asked him about that, and they asked him, "Hey, like it seems like back in the day, you looked for the guy who was tall and you could throw 40 yards down the field to it, and now you look into the guy you can throw 10 yards down the field and can take it 40 yards." And the way Shane responded to that, he's like, "Yeah, I think both
Right,
are true." But he said specifically, he's like, a guy like that is a guy I was in Carolina with, Steve Smith, and he's a guy you could drop it off 10 yards to, and he could take it 80. And the research Rick mentioned, he thought that was interesting because there is some comps out there for a Zay Flowers to a Steve Smith, and he kind of brought that up unprompted, and it's
right,
interesting if he might be sitting there as a guy who used to work with, like, was on a team with Steve Smith, if he sees Zay Flowers as like a new Steve Smith. If that's a comp that he might be throwing around, if he just kind of that came off the top of his head like that as a player, maybe that's one he's throwing around. So just a little something interesting there, I thought, with it.
Breath also mentioned Randy Moss. So and there are none of these guys in this draft are Randy Moss.
No. Yeah, they're all little guys. There's a couple
So
big guys,
you
but
take a
most part
tall
just
guy,
little guys.
you toss it over the top to. Yeah, but see, here's the thing. Here's another thing, is that I was thinking about recently, and I think I might have brought this up in mock drafts. Is that people are saying that guys like Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, even I think they're all like small receivers. But then they talk on the other side about you know Emmanuel Forbes. He's like he's a would be in the if he was Bill Christian Gonzalez, you know, like these guys, like, but the wide receivers are smaller and faster, so the corners have to evolve where they're longer and thinner. So, like, is this what the shift is becoming? Are we moving away from taller receivers who can go up and a get a 50 tested guys to these smaller, shifty, tight guys,
Yeah.
more contact, break tests, or stuff like they're getting lankier. They can get over the top. Think of it that way. Like,
Yeah,
can Emmanuel Forbes cover Zay Flowers?
I think it could.
Think about it. Like, think about it that way. Yeah, I definitely think he could. I think he's taller. He's definitely taller
Definitely
than
taller.
Zay
He's like
Flowers.
6'1"
So,
or
you
something.
know, I mean, his vertical is, yeah, but it's very interesting to kind of see the way the football talking heads are kind of talking about. Well, I like this guy, but he's too small. I like this guy, but he's too thin. If he was bigger, they would go further. But like, is this the new, like, the way things are going now? Right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got tight ends who are built like Darnell Washington, like, who's a lineman who can catch and run real fast. But we've got smaller wide receiver, length corners who, you know, have that breakout speed where they can get around these small shifty. It's really interesting if you're watching, and as receivers get smaller, corners are going to get taller so that they can go over the top of these guys. And the weight differential really doesn't matter. You're going to, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what you see over the course of the next few years.
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting with
Slower
that type of
and wide
stuff.
over the corner, like Darius Rush, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that change, and he might be a first round pick or a high second. You know, it's interesting to see. So we'll have to kind of see how that trend goes. It was just a
Yeah.
thought, just something I had.
No,
I've been
I
rolling around
something
in
I
my
thought
head.
about too. It's interesting with wide receivers because it does seem that people are kind of moving that way with wide receivers. You see a guy like Jalen Waddle, who was like a 5'9", skinnier type
Mm-hmm.
guy who went 6 overall in the draft, and he was an instant hit. So it's
I mean, look at
interesting
Wandell.
where
We picked that guy last year.
second round. It's
We picked that
interesting
guy
to me
last
when
year.
you start. Yeah, it's interesting when you start moving
Yeah, but still,
thresholds on guys.
right, right. I mean, the one threshold that's probably never going to change is quarterback. Young is he's small and he's skinny. He's a tiny little guy. You know, that's the big knock on Bryce Young. If Bryce Young was the size of C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson and could do all the things that he does, he'd be number one, no brainer. Because
Yeah,
then he would have everything. But the big knock on him is he's small. It's the Doug Flutie, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray argument. These guys are
yeah,
small. They and even then, Kyler and Doug and Russ were all bigger than he is. You know, because they're all over 200 pounds. He's a tiny dude.
hmm yeah.
So
So
I mean,
it's interesting with it because you know yeah, like but the quarterback thresholds have even changed because there was a point in time where Bryce Young would not have gone number one in the draft. I don't even know if Bryce Young would have been a first round pick previous to, Russell Wilson probably. So yeah, I mean thresholds
yeah,
move, the
yeah.
NFL moves. So it's interesting where like I don't
I just
feel
think the
super
quarterback
comfortable with
thresholds
Zay
move
Flowers.
slower.
What?
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say I phased out there for a second, but I was gonna say the quarterback threshold moves slower than the rest of the positions, though.
Yeah, I feel like
So
quarterbacks
it'll be
sometimes they
interesting to
overcorrect
watch.
though.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to watch though over the course of the next couple of years. You know, of like the makeup of a majority of the wide receivers and a makeup of the majority of the corners. I just think it'll be an interesting thing to watch.
Yeah. But so yeah, but anyway, so like my point with the wide receivers, just to like tap it off, was essentially in corners is essentially there's these thresholds like Flowers. I don't really like guys with under 30-inch arms, and Flowers under 30-inch arms. I don't really like a guy my outside wide receivers to be 5'9", and there's exceptions to that. But as the NFL changes, maybe those aren't thresholds anymore. Maybe it goes lower as you see guys succeed more and more at these smaller sizes, but it seems cornerback is moving a little bit slower than wide receiver. It seems wide receiver, people are more okay every single year to be like, hey, this guy can play. The Rondale Moore can play, second round pick. The Wandale Robinson can play, second round pick. The Jalen Waddle, top 6 pick. Like, these guys can play. Well, I feel like an Emmanuel Forbes, who's lighter, he's not getting that benefit of the doubt some of the wide receivers get at less weight and less height.
Yeah.
You can even look at a lot of these nickel corners who are like 5'9". Nobody's saying like Tomlinson from TCU can play outside. They're like, no, that guy's a nickel corner. I don't care how well he played.
Yeah.
Which I don't disagree with, for the record, but
I'm not going to argue with you on that one.
But yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, and we'll begin to see it all on stage next week. And I cannot wait because I really want to stop talking about drafts.
So
I know you're excited, Monty. I'm ready for it to be over. I am ready for it to be over.
I'll immediately start looking at 2024 mock drafts.
Oh my God, please no. It's too early. They haven't played yet.
I'll do them the college previews come August.
Oh, you know what, man? I love watching college football as much as the next guy, but like, I think it's too early to tell what we're gonna need next year.
Yeah, you gotta keep looking ahead.
I know, but still, I just want to enjoy a little Georgia football. That's all.
Yeah, it's also nice to. It's nice when you can pretend all your draft picks are going to be superstars for a few months.
Yeah, it's nice. It's super nice. So, speaking of the draft, Monty's got something special for us, kids, and it's not a mock draft.
No, finally, not a PFF mock draft for you guys.
We've got something on deck for you guys, and for you who enjoy a little DraftKings action, a little FanDuel action, who just like throwing your money away. Monty's got some stuff for you. Monty, hit it. What do you got for us?
All right, you can go ahead and sponsor us, DraftKings, but I'm just gonna pull up. I'm gonna zoom in actually a little bit so we can see a little better here.
I mean, I wouldn't mind to be monetized, DraftKings. Speaking of which, for those of you, and I know that you guys, if you watch later on, are saying, "Hey, what happened to last week's episode?" YouTube has blocked. Actually, Monty, can we go full screen here for just a second? So
yep. I got you. Hang on.
Right. Well, or the side by side, just the side by side. Okay. YouTube has blocked this video showed that Key and Peele of the East-West Shrine game. They basically blocked us. The episode is, you can't find it on YouTube currently until I edit out that whole last section. I really don't want to, but I'm going to have to. So for those of you who tuned in last week and saw the Key and Peele sketch, consider yourself lucky because now I have to edit that whole thing out. Thank you very much, YouTube.
YouTube, bunch of Zach Kuntz.
Zach, yes.
Yep. So yeah, sorry about that, guys. YouTube being a bunch of Zach Kuntz.
I mean, we showed a YouTube video on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Tell me how that is. I don't get it. I don't understand it at all.
Yep. I don't know.
On to DraftKings.
We won't do it next time. Yep. So anyway. So yeah, we're going to just go over.
If we put the link in the comments, I think we should. Or in the description, I think we might be okay. But I don't care.
Maybe that's true. So yeah, we're gonna go over some draft props. I'll be honest, guys. Usually this is my bread and butter. I love betting the draft, and I I've always won money on it since I started doing it. But I'll be honest with you guys, I'm looking at these lines, and I think they're getting better at putting lines on these because I've gotten some favorable things. Last year, I remember I hammered. They set the line for Sauce Gardner at over under 7.5. I'm like, the Giants aren't going to pass on Sauce Gardner twice if
That's
he
so
even gets
crazy.
yeah, so I hammered that. I put like the line wasn't even that good, but I still put like $500 on it because I was like, it's a guarantee. Unless he comes out smoking like a gas mask bong, where I'm in.
Oh my gosh.
So, but yeah, I don't see many things
That's
crazy this year, but we're gonna go through them. And for anybody who's not familiar with lines, I'll just give you a quick run through it with it. Basically, these numbers mean if it's plus, it's if you put $100 down. So you can see right here that CJ Stroud's plus 200 to go pick 3. Basically means you put $100 down, you win an additional $200. You take away 300 total, including your own money. And then if it would be a minus odds, let's see if we see a minus here anywhere. So pick 6, Devin Witherspoon is a minus 130. Essentially, that means you have to bet $130 to win $100. It means he's a favorite. So that's just a quick explanation of it. But I have a few that I wanted to go over with you guys, but I was thinking we would just quickly go 3 through 10 here and look at who they're favoring, so we can see like, hey, what does Vegas think is going to be the pick, and then we can say like, hey, I think this is a good value here. This is who I think would be a good based on where they're putting them. Does that sound good, Sarge?
Yeah, I mean, I put some money on the Giants last year, and I really didn't do well at all.
Maybe make it up in
the
draft.
I just said things a bunch of money and whatever.
So pick 3 here. This one's interesting. So I do not feel good about pick 3. This is
the Arizona Cardinals pick, right?
Yeah. So you're almost predicting a trade here, which is tough. Personally, I'd stay away from it. But if I was going to bet one, and actually the line's changed since I wrote this down earlier. Will Levis is actually plus 800 when I looked earlier. I would put my money on Will Levis. And my reasoning for that is that there's a lot of smoke that Will Levis is the Colts guy. I even heard that Daniel Jeremiah said in one of the podcasts I was listening to that he's heard that even if CJ Stroud is on the board, he still thinks they'll go Will Levis. So apparently they really like Will Levis. You'll take a little peek. You can see that he is the favorite to go 4. So to me, the only reason it makes sense to trade ahead of them is one. I mean, you could just do it because you really like Stroud and you don't want Stroud to go to maybe Seattle, or you just want to get him while he's on the board and teams willing to trade. But really, you're looking who you're trying to jump. Why are you trying to jump a team? Because you want a certain player that you're afraid they're going to take.
Right.
I think here Will Levis is a good value. What do you think, Sarge?
I mean, that seems like the likely move, because if you think about it, right, Carolina and Houston are both going to take a quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's maybe not. Houston might take a defensive player. That's a rumor too.
I've kind of heard that. I'm not. It's like they've got Davis Mills? That's.
Keep in mind they picked 12 too, though.
Yeah, but I mean, do you use pick? I mean, and that's the thing is like, do they wait and see who falls? I mean,
it's so weird, man. I don't think they're going quarterback too. That's just what I'm hearing. I think it's crazy, but it doesn't sound like they're sold on anybody.
I don't know, man. It just seems really weird in order for it to shake out like that.
So
like you've got CJ Stroud sitting right there, and you take Will Anderson and hope that you pull a little like Kevin Costner draft day action, um, and the guy you want, like, and CJ's fault. Like, well, I will say this. Shout out to Big Dash. Big Dash just did a mock draft where CJ Stroud fell all the way to the Ravens at 22.
Jeez.
So who
I don't think it'll
knows?
quite go that far, but I can see him
Neither do
falling.
I. Neither do I. Because if anything, if he's sitting there at like 6, you got to think that the Lions are at least thinking about it.
Yeah, he may be able to take a Justin Fields type tumble, but I don't think he'll get out of the top 10.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Eagles love to trade back if he does.
Oh God. Yeah. Which wouldn't be too bad, but I don't know. I mean, it make things easier for us to trade up to Bijan Robinson. Anyway. No, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts made the jump and jumped Carolina, or not Carolina, but Arizona.
Yeah, and
to do that.
Even if Houston doesn't go quarterback at 2, Houston might just try to trade out of that pick, and the team could come up for CJ Stroud there. So 1, 2, and then that's a thought process. If Carolina can't trade out of it, you could also look. Those are decent numbers, plus 300, plus 400 on Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson. If you just want to go defense, but anyway, it's a terrible pick to bet. I think let's move on to 4. So this is what I was talking to you about, Sarge. Mm-hmm. Look, Will Levis, favorite right now. Anthony Richardson, plus 500 to go here. And Will Levis, plus 120. Everyone's saying Richardson for a while now, but Levis is getting the hype from all the experts now. Vegas is behind him.
I just can't get behind a guy who doesn't peel bananas and puts mayonnaise in his coffee. The guy is a sociopath. And he's not even that good of a quarterback.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's a good quarterback.
That's a different discussion altogether. Yeah. How we have to the same thing happened last year. I mean, the quarterback class this year is slightly better than it was last year.
It's definitely better than last year. Last year
it's definitely better than last year, but the way the way the talking heads have to push the narrative. The whole the QB class this and everybody's banging the drum for Malik Willis, who's probably
because they had to make a 1.
Yeah, they have to do that. Mm-hmm. You can't not talk about quarterbacks when it's draft season. That's the thing. And just think about next year. Let's think of the anarchy next year if Caleb Williams decides not to go out, not to oh God, I lost the word. Declare for the draft. It's I'm gonna stay in college. I got a nice little NIL deal I'm working at, whatever. But yeah, that's next year's conversation. We'll worry about that later. But let's see it. Let's think about it this way. If the Colts jump the Cardinals, right? If they make that trade and the Cardinals are sitting at 4, what are they doing? You would think the defensive guys would be higher up on these boards, like Will Anderson. They're looking for that kind of defensive lineman type stuff. Would you think?
No, that's a good point. If the Colts have to jump to come get their guy, and the whether it's they jump with division rival the Texans, I don't think happens. But even if the Cardinals come up 1 pick, yeah, it's probably pretty good value here with plus 1,500 on Tyree Wilson or plus 950 on Will Anderson.
Yep,
I think those are pretty good. I also think you could look at Anthony Richardson plus 500 and say, hey, this Will Levis shit is a bunch of smoke. I don't believe it. They're going to go with the athletic freak who is still raw and has more traits than Will Levis could dream of, even though Will Levis has a ton of good traits, but he's not Anthony Richardson. I think, a couple weeks ago, you would hammer plus 500 in Anthony Richardson. So it's interesting that it's sitting there now. I agree with you though. I think I'd go defense, or I think I'd go Anthony Richardson there.
I really don't see the Colts drafting a black quarterback.
Let's just jump pick 5 though. Again, I don't love
On
that
to the next
spot.
pick.
Yeah, I don't love that spot. Now this one's an interesting.
Oh, yeah.
One. This one's Seattle.
Yeah, I would not. Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa. Hello. Whoa.
Hooker at plus 2,500.
Do you want to hear something weird? So like I said, I wrote these down earlier, and I put my favorite numbers. Want to hear something? Actually, a bet I was looking at. I was thinking about I was going to take. Anthony Richardson was plus 600 when I was looking just a couple hours ago to go pick 5.
Wow.
He's plus 275 now.
Yeah, man, that's nuts.
I liked Richardson's value there because I think that I've heard some rumors of Seattle wanting Richardson. I think it would be a great situation for him because they have a history of developing quarterbacks. They have a good infrastructure, and they have Geno Smith that you can sit behind for a year, or even less than a year. But he had a solid quarterback that's not going to rush him in. But I don't necessarily see that as a value anymore. I think I'd take Jalen Carter plus 600 at this point.
Yeah.
Jalen Carter and Anthony Richardson were close to reverse when I was looking for. So, yeah, I might take Jalen Carter at this point if I was going to make a bet on them because I think unless they take him off their board, I think he very much could be the best player available for them.
Yeah. And then what? And that's real interesting. So,
yeah, I mean these lines
6,
move.
We got the lines.
It's a couple.
Yeah,
not easy.
That's a big jump, man. That's 400 points.
Richardson might be the favorite by tomorrow. Who knows?
Who knows?
This is why I love draft betting, but it's a shame because I have to get some of my West Virginia or New Jersey.
This is an absolute nightmare. This is an absolute nightmare.
So, like, I can't actually bet these right now because I'm in Connecticut and they don't have draft betting for some reason. So I have to ask a friend to make the bet on my account for me if I want to do it. But when I was in West Virginia, I used to just live bet that shit. I used to it was 2020 was the first year I was doing it for the draft. And I had like every one of the top offensive linemen in the draft going to the Giants at like plus like 1,000 or better odds. As they moved, I just put like money on each one of them. So I'm like, I'm gonna make money no matter which lineman we take.
Oh my god, it's horrifying. I can't. Dude, I have panic attacks. I have panic attacks with eBay bidding. Just forget it.
Free money, Sarge.
No, it's not. It comes from somewhere.
Well, if you bet both sides of it essentially, and you get then
you're just breaking even.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you can make it better depending on. Regardless,
all right.
Do you have anybody that
Lions?
Do you have anybody else
you like here? I'm horrified. I was a little like Howard, and my question is both Seattle and. Well, obviously, Devin Witherspoon is favored right here. But my question was going to be, like, how is Seattle set for corner? Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez and Devin Witherspoon both are pretty high for 6, and then you drop them down a ton for or for 5, and then you drop them down a ton for 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's an interesting thought. They did just go heavy corner last year.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Well, they went and got Woolen. They got Woolen, who was like one of the best corners in the league as a rookie, and they got Colby Bryant. So, but Colby Bryant can be replaced. They definitely could go corner for sure. I don't know why the fuck Tanner McKee's here.
That's why he's a plus 20,000.
Yeah. Plus number 6 though, Lions. Hey, shout out my New York Revival pick. It's our first favorite here. Clear favorite was my pick, Devin Witherspoon. I'm gonna win some money from those guys.
Yeah, you are. Look at that. I mean, that's pretty much a lock right there.
Yeah, it's heavy. It's heavy with back here. Who did I have as the value here though? Let's see. Okay, so I have one here. I had Will Levis plus 3,000. And my reasoning for that is one, Lions could go quarterback. I don't think they will, but they could. But really, it's that they're pick 6. And the next pick is the Raiders. And if they think the Raiders could go quarterback, that's a prime position to try to trade above the Raiders. So there's a little double there. And based off it being plus 3,000, you throw $10 down on it, you can win $300 if it hits. It's not it's pretty solid flyer to me.
Right. I mean, that's the honestly, I joke, but at plus 6,000, that's the Hendon Hooker bet.
Yeah,
that's the Hendon Hooker bet. Is that somebody does something somebody does something crazy. I'm going to say crazy. Being fully admitting to be a huge Hendon Hooker fan this past season.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody does something a little crazy, and they take that ride with Hendon Hooker. Because if you think about it, right, the same thing we said for Seattle kind of fits with the Lions. You take Hendon at 6, he has a chance to finish his rehab, and you don't have to play him right away because you got Jared Goff.
Mm-hmm.
The same reasoning we gave for Anthony Richardson to the Seahawks.
Yeah,
you don't have to play him right away.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I'm staying away from Hooker personally, but I mean it's the same idea with Levis. I just don't know what's happening with those guys, but at least I'm seeing enough hype about Levis. I'm going with it, but I don't know. I'm confused on both those guys.
It's scary. It's too
anyway,
scary.
Let's go to pick 7. This one is the Raiders. Yeah, the Raiders. I've said it before, and now you're starting to see it was actually way higher earlier today. You're throwing away money on Jalen Carter. They took him off their board. That's the report. I think it makes total sense given, the Raiders can't take somebody who just got in trouble with related to a
vehicular homicide,
on street racing. They can't do it. They'll get shut down. They can't do it.
I mean, that was their draft pick last year.
Yeah.
Or was it 2 years ago?
3 years ago, 2020, I think was their pick.
Yeah, that would be a bad look. It's bad when the guy's too bad for the Raiders.
Yeah. But interesting enough, pick 7 here is Entertainer's pick, Christian Gonzalez. That's who he picked to the Raiders. Pick 7. That is the best odds here.
That's a favorite. Yeah, that's a favorite, I would say.
Yeah, definitely is the leader of the clubhouse here. So first I'll ask you, does any pop off the screen here to you?
Honestly I'm not surprised where Anthony Richardson lands here because that the Raiders could be a landing spot again for the exact same reason we gave for Seattle and Detroit. He doesn't need to play right away. He's behind a veteran quarterback.
Yeah. Honestly, both the quarterbacks are pretty good values here between Levis and Richardson.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I like that, actually. I hadn't heard a lot of hype around them taking quarterback for some reason, but I think that could be
really interesting because in a lot of mock drafts, I'm seeing them take Richardson.
Yeah. So
because of the Jimmy Garoppolo thing, they know Jimmy G is not their long-term answer. Oh my God! Sorry, I just caught the ending of the final score of the Rangers game.
Yeah. What was it?
5-1 Rangers.
All right.
We're up. The Rangers are up 2-0 in the series. So let's go Rangers. Hell yeah.
I missed this from earlier. I don't know why I wasn't looking at the comments while I was on here, but Darius is he's on board that Will Levis is a Colt.
Oh yeah. I mean.
But yeah, I think with that in mind, Anthony Richardson here is probably a good bet, plus 1,100.
Yeah, I mean,
I do have an alternate scenario for you here, though.
Oh, I'm dying to hear it.
So we look down here at some of these crazy numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Notice Nolan Smith here, plus 6,500, right?
I don't think Nolan Smith's that crazy for pickets at 7 though.
Yeah, seems weird. And let's go to 8. Let's just go down to 8 and see what his odds are.
Well, that's a jump.
Yeah. So that was what I was looking at. So 2 things. One, that tells me that obviously he is like worth going in that territory, of course, in the NFL. So his number shouldn't be that low. And 2, if the NFL is if people in the NFL believe Atlanta might go Nolan Smith at 8, and so what we talked about already, and you want Nolan Smith, you're going to want to get ahead of him if that's who you want, and especially if Tyree Wilson and Will Anderson are off the board, and you're like, hey, this is the last edge rusher that I really value. You might move up and get him, and on top of it, he could be valuable to the Raiders. So I think throw $20 down, you could win $1,300.
Yeah, that's a weird spot. That's a weird jump.
So that's one that I would look at.
Mm-hmm.
But and we'll lead that into pick 8 though here at the Atlanta Falcons. Here's an interesting one, plus 180, which is definitely up there as one of our favorites so far. Bijan Robinson, pick 8 to the Falcons. That's the favorite here.
Mm-hmm.
Do we get a running back top 10? That's the question here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little. I mean, what was the? Do you remember what the New York Revival draft was at that spot? The Falcons.
Pick 8 is actually something I was going to bring up because this actually is my pick here for my value pick. That was Dash's pick. Dash took Jackson Smith-Njigba, who was plus 7,500.
Holy shit!
And I thought he had good reasoning. I'm going wrong. I didn't like the pick for picking a favorite, but as far as like one of the picks that made sense, I thought it made sense. And taking a little bit of a dark horse pick,
right?
And plus 7,500. This is one thing I'll say. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is being undervalued in a lot of these picks. Like you go back here,
totally.
He's plus 10,000. To me, Jackson Smith-Njigba is a blue chip player, and there's not a lot of blue chip players in this draft. I think he is a guy who will be good, whatever team he goes to. I don't know how good he'll be. I think that's the question.
Right.
But I think he is an Amon-Ra St. Brown guy at like I wouldn't say a floor, but like I would be comfortably assuming that he can be an Amon-Ra St. Brown type player. And I think he'd be better.
Yeah. I mean, if that's your floor, like you're slightly above the floor,
but it's like a safe medium.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we'll try to clip this later, but Dash, put your money where your mouth is. Throw $10 on Jackson Smith-Njigba at 8, and
yeah, dude. I mean, he throws.
Let us know what happens. Let us know what happens.
Throw down a clean 20 and make $1,500 off it.
Yeah, no shit, man.
So,
but I'm not doing it anyway.
Yeah, so I don't know. That was one that interested
me. Where we at 9 with the Bears?
Yeah, so let's move on. That is the one that interests me the most, though. The Bears, number 9. Jalen Carter, and then 3 offensive linemen. Darnell Wright moved to 1. So I wish I could kick myself. I was looking at these lines earlier last week, and like I said, I can't bet on myself, so I didn't. But I could have texted my friend, and I didn't.
Good thing.
The favorite right now, Darnell Wright. His odds to be the number 1 offensive lineman off the board a week ago was plus 2,600.
Jeez.
And right now he's a favorite to be the first offensive lineman.
So let me ask you a question, right? When you place that bet, if you were to place that bet last week at plus 2,600, do those odds lock in, or does it shift when now that it's wow?
So that's why I was saying where I like draft betting when I have the ability to do it when I want. Because, like, for example, what I would do right now is I would go back and I would bet. I would go and put some money down on Skoronski and Paris Johnson, and I would feel pretty good that I would make money regardless, with a good chance of Darnell Wright bringing in. So I'd either break even on Skoronski or Paris Johnson, or I could make big on Darnell Wright. Something along those lines is what I would do a lot of the time.
Right. Because you know that, because more than likely they're going offensive line.
Yeah, or I just go first offensive lineman off the board with this stuff. Right. But yeah, so anyway, here at pick 9, anybody jump off the board at you? These lines changed. A lot of these lines changed. So I'll bring up mine changed. I'll tell you after you pick someone out.
I got nothing, man. Honestly, this is all might as well be Sanskrit.
All right.
Like I know what you said earlier about if you put out this much, you get this much, and that's percentages and we're good. But I'm like, yeah, I got nothing.
All right, so I'll give you a couple then, because I do have a couple for this. So This wasn't the one I picked. I'll give you a few. I'll give you the one I picked last. Jackson Smith-Njigba, again, I think a top 10 pick for him is a good pick. I think giving him back to Justin Fields, giving them wide receiver help, I think that makes sense here. Christian Gonzalez, I think if he makes it to this point, and I think he could, I think they would look to add cornerback help, especially after they just got rid of Stephon Gilmore. I think he would make some sense for them. Or no, they didn't. Sorry, I was thinking of the Colts. No. Sorry, ignore me. But regardless, I think I was thinking because their head coach came from the Colts.
I mean, considering we've been hearing at least 2 of these corners are going in the top 10, someone's taking them.
Yeah, I think there's some really good value. The one that I put down here, who moved up though, Bijan Robinson. So it's an interesting thing here. When I was listening to the podcast today with Jeremiah and Pierre Schrager, Jeremiah said he's been hearing, he doesn't know if he believes it or not, but he's been hearing that the Bears are interested in Bijan Robinson. You think about who they have at running back right now. They have what's Khalil Herbert. They have Deontay Foreman. They really don't have
a number 1 guy.
And there was a lot of rumors that if Saquon hit free agency, that's who the Bears are going to go after. Right. So do they, especially in a run-heavy offense with Justin Fields, do they give him a partner in that backfield and go get Bijan Robinson? When I wrote it down, he was plus 2,500. He's moved up to plus 2,000 already. Probably from the podcast, if we're being honest. A lot of this shit does move up.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff, there's, you sniff like the hint of a rumor, right? Or I think I heard this. That's like essentially the LaCroix of, somebody thought they heard something tangentially. Now, I don't know if that's me or if Monty's antenna is down.
I accidentally clicked stop cam.
Arms up. Monty's, we got to get the tinfoil out. It's the horizontal hold. And the vertical. Gonna mess with the buttons on his yeah. So it's weird, man. It's these things shift so much because of like conjecture and rumor and you know somebody with a blue check mark tweets something, which I'm pretty sure you said today they're getting rid of blue check marks again. Is that
They're gone.
a thing?
They're already gone.
Awesome. I don't believe anything on Twitter anyway.
Unless you got Twitter Blue, it's gone.
Oh, I don't have it. I'm not paying for Twitter.
I'm
not even paying for internet.
so yeah.
All right.
So
all right, let's round out the top 10. Let's get on to the Eagles and see what's
let's round out the
Howie
top.
Roseman is going to do.
So it's past pick in the top 10. Of course, the Eagles offensive line, defensive line, running back, offensive line, cornerback, defensive line. This is the Howie Roseman special.
Yeah.
He takes offensive linemen or defensive linemen. There's been rumors of them taking cornerback. I could see it, but they know what Howie Roseman takes, and they're putting it out here. Again, Bijan's getting some love, but I wrote here that I'd throw some money on the OG favorite for Philadelphia and Christian Gonzalez plus 1,000.
Yeah.
I mean, I swear to God, they changed they proposed that number change rule to allow zeros so they can give Christian Gonzalez 0. I swear to God, that's why they did it. What the fuck? I turned it off again. Oh, it is me. Oh,
I told you.
Oh, what's going on?
Monty is broadcasting from my parents' television.
But yeah, do you have any thoughts on that pick?
Well, no, it's not. It's the housing special. It's essentially, it's going to be an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. Because if you think about it, I don't think it'll be corner because they did re-sign Bradbury and Darius Slay, and I think, well, at least Bradbury got a long-term deal, didn't he? He got at least a 3-year deal.
Yeah, I think they get a 3-year deal.
Yeah,
Eagles love to build up trenches.
It says they love to build up trenches, man.
And shout out Sal from the New York Revival mock draft because I don't think anyone saw Paris Johnson Jr. coming when he picked him at 10. Right now, plus 300.
But now everybody sees it because they had it on Revival. So
yep, everyone's watching.
Vegas obviously watches New York Revival, and but if you look, nobody in the top 10 was in our name draft, so they don't watch us. So get on it, Vegas or DraftKings or whoever. Start watching our show.
All right. So I have one more one I want to ask you, and I'm just going to run through a few of my just random favorites real quick.
Hit me.
So one I wanted to ask you, what round do you think Stetson Bennett comes off the board?
Oh, 7th. He's not either that or he's undrafted. It's a 7th. He's a 7th round pick.
I know you're a Stetson Bennett fan, so I just wanted to see. That's about what lines up with it. Let's see. The draft specials, draft round. Yep. Stetson Bennett is a favorite to go in undrafted. He's plus 350, 7th round, though. It's honestly not a bad value, 7th round.
It's the weird I got drunk and started knocking on doors in Texas thing. That's gonna kind of
exactly. So just a few quick ones I wanted to run through that I liked. They have these matchups here. There's a few matchups I like. Are they not even showing it anymore? Okay, I don't even see it anymore. This shit keeps changing on me, but I'll just say it anyway. They had Jack Campbell versus the linebacker
Trenton
out
Simpson.
of not Trenton Simmons, but Drew Sanders.
Oh,
Drew Sanders versus Jack Campbell to be the first linebacker off the board, or which
it's
one goes earlier?
Jack Campbell.
Jack Campbell's plus 120. He was the better odds.
Well,
so
yeah, man.
I like Jack Campbell more, and I also think he could go to the Buffalo Bills in the first round pick. He's been training with Luke Kuechly, who used to play for Sean McDermott. Luke Kuechly used to be a scout for the Panthers. I think that would be a natural fit with them losing Tremaine Edmonds.
Yeah.
And there was another one that was offensive line. That was who goes first, Paris Campbell Jr. or Skoronski. And Skoronski was the underdog, so he was plus 120 to go first. So I would have also bet that. That one's not showing for whatever reason. And then here, I'll just go. I had a couple on FanDuel. I'll just show real quick that I was. I also had, if I can pull it up. These ones I really liked. They had. I'll give you the one that it's kind of like this is the one I'd quote unquote like hammer. Like it's not a great odds, but Zay Flowers has been getting a lot of hype to go early. His agent is like, he's gonna look like a clown if he's wrong, because he's like, this dude's going early. He's not.
How early are we talking?
He's saying he's going to be the first wide receiver off the board. I think he's wrong there, but he said he won't make it to 25. Like, I wish he would. He'd be a great fit for you guys, but he's not making it. His agent is going up. People are saying, like, people in general are saying, like, the Patriots love him at 14. He's a favorite, like, good, like, plus money, plus 154 to go under 22.5. Of all these, like, like smaller money bets, there's no Sauce Gardner, under 7.5. There's nothing I feel great like that about, but I feel for plus money, I feel good about Zay Flowers under 22.5. I'd feel good throwing a couple $100 on that one.
Yeah, well, that's where you and I differ, because I would not feel good about that at all.
But the one last one that I do feel good about as, like, I think just a really good bet is Jackson Smith-Njigba, top 10 pick, plus 1,000. Anywhere in the top 10, plus 1,000. Put down $100, win $1,000. I think that is one of my favorite bets in this draft, because
I like how offhand you are about that. Just throw out $100. I'd have a panic attack. I would have a panic attack. Like, I'll throw down $10 on that.
I probably wouldn't throw down 100, but
You're nuts.
I'll throw down a few hundred on the draft in total for sure.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. Well, that about wraps it up for this week, kids. Monty needs to climb up on the roof and adjust his rabbit ears. And I need to stop stealing my neighbor's internet. Programming note, obviously we are not having a show next week because it will be next Thursday is finally day one of the draft. Everybody is going to be patiently waiting for pick 25, and Joe Schoen is going to trade us out of the first round.
He's so anticlimactic.
So we're not going to have a show next week because obviously we're going to be watching the draft. Monty's out of town.
Man.
And you know what? I will say this. I'm doing a 15-minute spot on NYG Rush. I just don't know when that's going to be. Once I find out, I will tweet that out, and I'll tweet that out from my account and the Big Blue Beards page. So what we will do is we will come back. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and we will do a draft roundup. and we'll talk about everything we like and everything we didn't like. And yeah, man. So for Monty, you got anything else before we leave, Monty?
No, I think I'm about to like enter the Matrix or something right here. My camera's
Yeah,
going
seriously,
crazy.
Monty. Yeah, like and subscribe. Watch Monty become the lawnmower man. With a deep cut. For my man Monte Cristo, I am Sergeant Mayhem. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're here already, you probably already subscribed. But hit the like button, subscribe, hit the so that you get the alerts when we go live. Or who knows? I may post live reactions to the draft. Monty, you'll be in a room full of people, probably loaded with liquor, and that might be fun to do a live draft.
Yeah,
too.
maybe I'll get somebody to film my reaction or something.
Happens. We'll see what happens. We're always just screaming out content here on Beards. So we'll see you in 2 weeks, kids. Have a good night.
Enjoy the draft, everyone. It didn't work. Enjoy the draft.